What if the moment you're waiting for doesn't arrive with thunder? What if it doesn't come through a dramatic vision, a perfect dream, or some unmistakable voice from the sky? Maybe the universe doesn't always shout. Maybe most of the time it taps gently on the window of your life and waits to see whether you're still too distracted to hear it. A conversation you weren't supposed to overhear, a sentence in a book that feels strangely personal, a delay that saves you from something. A closed door that hurts at first, then later makes you whisper, "Now I understand." You've probably felt it before, not always loudly, not always clearly, but somewhere beneath the noise of your thoughts, there was a knowing, a tiny pull, a quiet pressure in the chest. Something inside you leaned toward one path and away from another, even before your mind could explain why. And because the world teaches you to trust only what can be measured, proven and repeated, you may have dismissed it. You may have called it coincidence. You may have said, "I'm probably overthinking." But deep down, some part of you knew life was speaking. Recognizing the signs the universe is sending you isn't about becoming superstitious or seeing magic in every random thing. It's not about losing yourself in fantasy. It's about learning to participate in life with your eyes open. It's about understanding that reality isn't just something happening to you. It's also something happening through you, with you, around you, and sometimes for you. As Einstein is often remembered for saying, there are only two ways to live, as though nothing is a miracle, or as though everything is. And the strange thing is, whichever one you choose, life begins to organize itself around that choice. Before you can recognize signs from the universe, you have to understand something most people skip over. The first sign is often not the thing you see. It's the way your body responds when you see it. A sign doesn't always announce itself with flashing lights. More often, it lands differently. It interrupts the usual rhythm. Something ordinary suddenly feels charged. A word, a name, a place, a song, a face in a crowd. None of it may look impressive from the outside, but inside, something pauses, almost like the soul turns its head. And yes, the mind will immediately try to explain it away. Of course it will. The mind is like a security guard at the door of mystery, checking every guest's identification. Coincidence, it says. Random, it says. Don't be weird. But the heart doesn't work like a spreadsheet. The body doesn't wait for a full report before it gives you a signal. Sometimes your nervous system knows before your reasoning catches up. Sometimes peace is the sign. Sometimes tension is the sign. Sometimes a sudden heaviness is not fear trying to stop you, but wisdom asking you to slow down. Think of a traveler standing at a fork in the woods. One path is wide, paved and full of footprints. It makes sense. Everyone seems to have taken it. The other path is narrow, half hidden, almost embarrassing to consider. Nothing about it looks practical. Yet the traveler feels strangely alive looking at it. Not comfortable exactly, alive. There's a difference. Comfort often protects the old self. Aliveness calls the future self forward. Many people miss their signs because they're waiting for comfort, when the universe is sending vitality. So when something repeats in your life, don't rush to label it. Sit with it. Feel what happens in your body. Does your chest tighten, or does something open? Do you feel drained, or do you feel quietly expanded? Does the sign make you smaller, more fearful, more obsessed with control? Or does it call you back into courage, honesty, love and movement? The universe may speak through events, but it translates through your inner state. Without that inner listening, even the clearest sign can look like a random object on the ground. And maybe that's where most people get stuck. They want the sign to do all the work. They want life to spell out the answer in capital letters, preferably with a guarantee and maybe a little receipt attached. But signs don't replace your participation. They invite it. They're not commands. They're invitations to pay attention. A sign is not life saying, you no longer have to choose. A sign is life saying, look closer, something here matters. Here's where things get uncomfortable, but in a useful way. You don't see life exactly as it is. You see life through the story you're carrying. If you believe you're always unlucky, you'll collect evidence for it everywhere. A missed train becomes proof. A delayed message becomes proof. A failed plan becomes proof. The world becomes a courtroom, and your old wound becomes the judge. But when you begin to believe that life can guide you, the same events start to feel different. Not always pleasant, not always easy, but meaningful. Imagine two people walking through the same city after the rain. One only sees puddles, dirty shoes, grey buildings, traffic, noise. The other sees reflections of lights on the sidewalk, the smell of wet stone, the way the air feels washed clean. Same street, different world. That's not fake positivity. That's perception. What you look for trains what you notice, and what you notice becomes the material your life seems to be made of. So if you keep asking, why does everything go wrong for me? Your mind will obediently bring you examples. It's a loyal servant, but not always a wise one. Ancient teachers understood this long before modern psychology gave it language. Rumi asked, "Why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open?" Such a simple question, but it cuts deep. Many people aren't trapped by a lack of signs. They're trapped by the meaning they've already decided everything must have. A closed door means rejection. Silence means abandonment. Delay means failure. A change of plans means punishment. But what if some doors close because your name is not written on the room behind them? What if silence is not absence, but preparation? What if delay is not denial, but timing? Of course, that doesn't mean every inconvenience is secretly a blessing. Let's not turn spirituality into a pretty blanket we throw over real pain. Some things hurt. Some things are unfair. Some things take time to heal. But even there, meaning can grow like grass through broken pavement. A sign from the universe doesn't always say, everything is perfect. Sometimes it says, don't abandon yourself here. Sometimes it says, rest. Sometimes it says, stop forcing what keeps wounding you. And sometimes, very quietly, it says, you already know. A useful practice is to change the question. Instead of asking, is this good or bad? Ask, what is this showing me? That question opens a door. Good or bad makes the mind defensive. Showing me makes the soul curious. Maybe the repeated obstacle is showing you where you're pushing from ego instead of alignment. Maybe the repeated longing is showing you what your heart refuses to outgrow. Maybe the repeated discomfort around certain people is showing you that your body has been telling the truth longer than your mouth has. Little by little, you begin to see that signs aren't separate from your consciousness. They meet you at the level you're willing to perceive. If you live as though nothing means anything, life becomes flat. If you live as though everything is out to hurt you, life becomes hostile. But when you live with the possibility that guidance can arrive through small things, the world softens. Not because it becomes easier overnight, but because you stop walking through it like a stranger. You start recognizing that life has been leaving notes for you in places you used to ignore. A true sign does not make you dependent, frantic, or afraid. That matters. Because sometimes people confuse signs with obsession. They chase numbers, symbols, dreams, and coincidences until they're no longer listening to life. They're trying to control it. They keep asking the same question because they don't like the answer they already received. They want the universe to approve a decision their soul has quietly outgrown. And look, that's human. Everyone has done some version of this. When you want something badly enough, even a streetlight can start looking like permission. But real guidance has a different texture. It may challenge you, but it doesn't degrade you. It may stretch you, but it doesn't make you betray yourself. It may ask for courage, but it doesn't require panic. A true sign carries a strange kind of clarity, even when the next step is difficult. It feels like a bell being struck somewhere deep inside, not always loud, just clean. You may still feel nervous because growth often feels like standing at the edge of cold water before you jump in, but underneath the nerves there's a steadiness, a quiet yes. Picture a farmer planting seeds before the first rain. To someone passing by, the field looks empty. Nothing has happened yet. No proof, no harvest, just dirt and patience. But the farmer knows how to read signs the impatient person misses. The temperature of the soil, the smell of the air, the behavior of birds, the weight of clouds gathering beyond the hills. A sign doesn't always look like the outcome. Sometimes it looks like conditions becoming ready. Life may not hand you the finished harvest, but it may show you the season has changed. So when you receive a sign, ask what it's inviting you to become, not just what it's promising you. That's a big difference. If a repeated symbol keeps appearing around love, maybe it's not simply saying, someone is coming. Maybe it's asking you to become available for love without abandoning your boundaries. If opportunities keep appearing around a dream, maybe the sign isn't success is guaranteed. Maybe it's prepare yourself because the door is opening. If the same discomfort keeps returning, maybe life isn't punishing you. Maybe life is refusing to let you stay asleep inside a life that no longer fits. You'll also notice that signs often arrive through what you already love. Life rarely speaks in a language completely foreign to your soul. A musician may receive signs through sound, a writer through words, a gardener through seasons, a child through animals, a builder through structure, a healer through the body. Someone who loves the ocean may feel guidance in tides, shells, storms, and stillness. That's why copying someone else's signs can become confusing. The universe doesn't need to speak to you through another person's dictionary. Your soul has its own vocabulary. Learning that vocabulary takes honesty. You have to notice what keeps touching you, what keeps waking you up, what keeps returning even after years of distraction. Some desires are not shallow, some are seeds. They sit quietly under the soil of your life until one day, something, a conversation, a loss, a strange coincidence, a restless feeling you can't shake, waters them. Then suddenly you remember, wait, I've always wanted this. Wait, I've always known. Recognition is one of the clearest signs there is, not excitement alone. Recognition, the feeling of meeting something that was already waiting inside you. There comes a point where recognizing signs becomes less passive. You're not just waiting for life to drop hints. You begin a relationship with the unseen, not in a dramatic way, not in a performative way, just honestly. You ask, you listen, you stay open, you say, show me what I need to see, or, if this path is aligned, make it clear in a way I can understand. And then, here's the part people don't like, you release your grip. You don't stalk the universe like a detective with a caffeine problem. You ask clearly, then you return to presence. Clarity matters. Vague questions create vague perception. If you ask, what should I do with my entire life? You may overwhelm your own inner system. That's too big, too foggy, too loaded with fear. Ask something cleaner. What is the next honest step? What am I not seeing? Where am I forcing? What deserves my attention today? Good questions are like lanterns. They don't show the whole road, but they reveal enough ground for your next footstep. And often, that's all you're meant to receive at first. After asking, watch the world without squeezing it. Signs may come through repetition. A theme keeps appearing. A name keeps returning. A certain idea visits you in different forms, or guidance may arrive through interruption. A plan collapses, a meeting gets delayed, an unexpected person enters the room. A sentence lands with unusual weight. Sometimes the sign is energetic. You feel unusually peaceful after making one decision and strangely contracted after considering another. Pay attention to those shifts. Your body is not just carrying you through life, it's also reporting from the front lines. Still, discernment is important. Not everything is a sign, and not every sign means what you first think it means. A feather on the sidewalk might mean something to you, or it might simply be a feather. No need to force mystery onto everything until reality becomes exhausting. The point is not to become paranoid with meaning. The point is to become intimate with life. A healthy sign brings you back into presence. An unhealthy interpretation pulls you into anxiety. That distinction can save you from a lot of confusion. When doubt comes, and it will, return to the body. Breathe, move, shake off the mental fog. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is stop spiraling. Drink water, take a walk, stretch your shoulders, and come back to the room you're actually in. Signs become clearer when your nervous system is not screaming. Fear makes everything look urgent. Calm makes truth easier to hear. You don't need to become perfectly peaceful, by the way. Nobody is. But even a small pause can create enough space for wisdom to slip through. And once the sign is clear enough, act. Not recklessly, not dramatically, just one honest step. Signs are not meant to decorate your imagination. They're meant to guide your participation. If life keeps nudging you toward a conversation, have it. If your soul keeps pulling you toward a craft, practice it. If your body keeps warning you about a situation, respect it. If love keeps asking you to soften, soften. If your path keeps asking you to grow up, grow. The universe may open the door, but you still have to walk through it with your own feet.